Welcome to another episode of Chiefs Corner. Today we have a really great guest. I mean, this is, as you know, April is the Arab American Heritage Month, and we have, I believe, is the first Arab American police chief of Dearborn Heights, and one of the few Arab Americans as well as Muslim Americans to be a chief of police across the United States. So we're great to have Chief Ahmed Haider.
Yes, hey.
All right, man.
I'm glad to be here, man. I met you the other day downtown at police headquarters. It was an honor. We were able to sit next to each other, and it was just an amazing moment for me to be able to sit next to another Arab American, at the rank of chief, and in that room. It was good times.
Yeah. And I know you're the chief of Detroit was saying talk about the what is it called, the Real Time Crime Center.
Yeah.
We had a big debate. I didn't bring my measuring tape, but I should have went down there. But sure. It's a really amazing place, and I didn't know when I spoke to you about that. I was like, wait, you actually started in Detroit.
Yeah. I started in Detroit in the mid '90s, '96.
So you've been a police officer since 1996.
Yeah, since 1996. When I became a police officer, there was just a handful, in the city of Detroit. Myself, Mike Jafer, who's now the undersheriff at Wayne County. Samir Jafer, who's the Homeland Security Wayne County
He started in Detroit
director.
as well.
Yeah. I think Samir started first, Mike, then me.
Wow.
And then before us, we had a Muslim female officer named Widad El-Hajj.
Widad El-Hajj. She's the first probably Muslim female officer in Detroit.
In Detroit. I think she's the first Muslim police officer ever.
So let's give a shout out to her. What's her name?
Widad El-Hajj.
Widad El-Hajj, if you're out there, if you're here in your family, we thank you, for the contributions you made, being the first Muslim female in the Detroit Police Department. For me, there's a lot of new information, and now I see the connection between Detroit and these other departments.
Yeah. A lot of us started off in Detroit.
Wow.
Detroit was a police department that, with open arms just accepted us all. It was kind of at the time it was
and it's a big
cities.
department.
Yeah,
it's a reputable department.
Yeah. It's a great police department. Yeah. And you learn a lot there.
Oh yeah.
If it was up to me, I would ask that all law enforcement officers go through Detroit.
That's where you learn, really learn.
Yeah, it's where you learn, and then you can branch off from there.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of opportunity. You learn on the fly.
Wow.
Everything happens so fast. It really doesn't matter who's aligned next to you. Female, male, white, black, Arab, Hispanic. It didn't matter. We were very, very diverse, very, very diverse, and everybody just loved being a police there. We just wanted to fight crime. It was amazing.
It reminds you of New York and just being in NYPD. So tell us a little about your career. So you started as a police officer in Detroit Police Department. What inspired you to be a police officer? And just tell us a little about how you moved up the ranks and how many years throughout the years you served. Where'd you go?
So I attended Robichaud High School in Westwood, which is in Dearborn Heights.
Wow.
And I was a senior year, and we had a career day, and a Dearborn Heights police officer came into our class and kind of had a presentation on what it was like to be a police officer. And right away I was like, man, I kind of want to do this. Guy came in, good looking dude, nice looking hair, slick back, uniform looked sharp. So I ended up going on a ride along with him, and from that day, I was just like, I love it. I want to become a police officer.
So it's a Dearborn Heights police officer, and it's amazing. Now, fast forward, you don't go to Dearborn Heights, you go to Detroit.
Yes.
You eventually come back at Dearborn Heights, so it's amazing. How
the city I grew up in. And we were playing football in the streets, and they would drive by and hello, and we had a lot of interaction with them back in our days growing up in the neighborhood streets in the '80s and the early '90s. So then I became a Detroit police officer. Out of the academy, I originally went to the 11th precinct, right? That borders, your city.
That's right.
Hamtramck, and we would go in there. You guys had the restaurants. We'd go in there all the time during our lunch breaks and eat in that direction. And as being a young Arab officer and being able to, speak the language and, I'm a little bit heavy now, but back then I was skinny, had a full head of hair like you, so they, I ended up transferring to our narcotics unit.
Wow.
And it was an amazing unit. You know, we raided drug houses. We targeted high level targets.
How long did you do that for?
I did that for 6 years. Yeah, 6 years, and it was good times. We were really big at the time.
It's crazy you said that because I was actually undercover for 6 years in narcotics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was one of my most fun. It was crazy at the time.
Yeah.
It was challenging, but also it was the most fun. I think.
Yes, I can imagine only in New York the problems you had. Yeah, we had, major problems back then. We had a lot of vacant dwellings, a lot of narcotic street sales, a lot of people moving in these vacant dwellings and opening up drug houses.
And you put your life at risk.
Yes,
doing narcotics is not a easy job.
I mean, it was. So Detroit is there's precincts in every area. At the time, I believe we had around 13 precincts. First precinct, second precinct, third precinct, fourth precinct. And our narcotics units used to, every precinct had a narcotics crew. Yep. Which consists of probably 8 officers and a sergeant. And
did you guys ever call them like street narcotics enforcement?
We had.
It was what we used to call them in New York. But they dismantled them, but they were existing back.
Yeah, we had narcotic street enforcement, which there was one on the west side, one on the east side, and they focused on the narcotic street sales. We, as a narcotics crew, focused on the actual crack houses and the drug houses, the vacants, the people that were selling out of their homes and stuff like that. And it was. We were a pretty big crew. There was a picture somewhere floating around that we took. I think it was in like the early 2000s, and there was about 140, 150 of us. Wow. Now they're nowhere near as big. I think from what I understand, they might have 2 or 3 crews, maybe a total of 20 officers.
You guys did amazing work. I mean,
So, but after narcotics, I ended up getting promoted. I ended up going to the 10th precinct. The 10th precinct is unique. It's the area Kwame Kilpatrick was born and raised in and grew up in. It's the only precinct in the city that doesn't border a suburb.
Wow.
It's the only precinct that all 4 corners are Detroit. Wow. And
so all the precincts, they border other cities, towns, municipalities, right?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
There's a lot of quality life issues in the 10th precinct. Yeah. The city was going through some issues financially, and we had to. We called it the breakup, where we took away some precincts and we merged into one. So the 10th precinct at the time merged into the 12th precinct, and then they changed the name of the precinct and they called it the Western District. From there, we spent time at the Western District for 2 years, and I was involved in the Western District Special Ops. Special Ops is a unit that at the time we were in plain clothes. We were plain clothes, come in, jerseys, hoodies, pants, like the movies. Yeah. The badge around your neck, kind of like there was a movie in New York back in the days. I can't remember it, but the guys used to have like Timberland boots, and they were in plain clothes, and they were out there policing in New York in plain clothes. A lot of movies in New York. New York has great movies. And we were, basically going after violent crimes and people that were, selling drugs still, robberies and carjackings. Home invasions were big at the time. We had a lot of break-ins. So we did that, and then they decided that the Western District wasn't working for some members and that were commuting back and forth, and that it wasn't something they wanted to continue. So we unmerged. The officers that came there from 10 returned. Yeah. The officers that were at 12 returned. You had a choice to stay. I ended up staying. I came from 10, but I enjoyed 12, so I stayed at 12. And from there, we stayed as a crew in the 12th Precinct Special Ops. I think right around, I say when Chief Craig came in from LA, it might have been like 3 or 4 or 5 months while he was in there. They changed our uniform at the time. They put us in green and blacks. So we went from plain clothes to now being in the actual uniform in green and black. Don't have any idea why, but it was just something that Chief Craig felt that, Chief Craig came from California, and, they had their special ops, and they're officers that were really proactive in uniform. So I think he thought it was kind of odd that we were in plain clothes and out here policing like that. So we ended up going to green and blacks, but we continued doing the same things that we were doing every day, but we were just in a different uniform. Sometime in like 2019, Mayor Duggan announced a new program that he was bringing to the city called Ceasefire.
Yeah, I heard of it.
Yeah. So we became Ceasefire.
Wow.
Yeah, and Ceasefire involved a lot of community members, involved former gang members, pastors, preachers, bishops. The bishop was involved. A lot of people from the church, a lot of citizens that, would come in and have their input on how certain things should be done. And how it kind of went is you would identify a group or a gang that's in your precinct, and you would do group and gang enforcement. You would focus on them and them only because they were driving the crime. And one of the things that we had in play, one of the triggers is we would do a home visit. We would come over there with the bishop, members of Ceasefire, and we would physically go there, knock on a door. It'd be a member from our Ceasefire team, an officer, and then the team. And we would go in there, and we would, we would start off by saying, who we were and what we were there for, and why we were there and what we expected of them on the police side. Yeah. And then we would walk out, and then we would just basically became security for the team. And they didn't have securities. They're former gang members that could handle themselves. And, the bishop was always there. Bishop Harris was his name. Quincy, another member of Ceasefire. These guys are well-respected men in the community.
That's interesting how, police department names are Ceasefire, given the current global context of the word ceasefire.
Yes, I know.
It's just interesting. I'm trying to put this through my mind and just think about it like now with the current context. Ceasefire, all right, for the police. Yeah. But it makes a lot of sense. You are really creating a ceasefire because you're preventing the recurrent violence. Right. And you're using the community, right?
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Yeah. And visiting these homes of people that might commit certain acts. Right. Wow, that's a great program. I mean, I heard a little bit about it, but it's interesting to hear from you how you guys actually went to the homes with the religious leaders. Yes. And they would talk to these individuals to try to prevent violence?
Correct. They would offer them all kinds of, mentorship, try to get them a GED,
So you saw that hand in hand. How did you feel about the program?
Well, a lot of...
Just seeing that and witnessing that, coming from a narcotics guy, you're out there getting the bad guys, and now you're working with these communities trying to prevent violence. So you kind of experience...
you had a lot
different realms.
You had a lot of pushback from some of the police officers. There's police officers
naturally,
they want to go out here and be police and proactive. There was a term that they would use, hug a thug. That was their term. Here we go. We had to go with Sergeant Haydar over to his house and hug a thug.
And it was funny because nowadays, if you see a chief, if you see a police department, we're engaging with people that were involved in certain crimes in the past or violence. And now it's like you're saying, oh, well, where's the police hanging out with these criminals? It's a double-edged sword. It's not. We're here, end of the day, they're human beings. We want to prevent violence, keep the entire community safe. Yeah. And if you don't engage them, you're kind of losing there. You should engage everyone.
Yeah, it was, and but then at the end of the day, if you really think about it, like, what were we doing? We were out here arresting them. They were getting back. Yeah. They were continuing to commit crime. Wow. They were either end up in jail, killing someone, or getting killed themselves. So it was kind of a revolving door. So maybe if we looked at this in a different way and came at them in a different way, we could actually help. And that's what I would push to these guys. Like, look, I chased this kid since he was 15. He's now 22. And I'm still chasing him. What if you have an opportunity to talk to this kid at 15? Maybe you could stop him from being that guy that's being chased when he gets older. And that was the whole motto with Ceasefire. And it was, and they had this it wasn't just we went to their home and we talked them out of committing crimes and try to give them help. Yeah. There'd be times where we would call Ceasefire to come help us at a shooting scene. We'd have a homicide, we'd have a shooting scene. The neighborhood was, one of the worst scenes that you can get anywhere in law enforcement is when the body's still left at the scene. And there's a white sheet that's over them. And it's during the day. Families start to come. The neighborhood gathers. People are upset. Wayne County Morgue is taking forever to come pick up the body. People are upset. It's raining. They see their loved one sitting there with a white sheet over them, and it's a problem. It's a sad day for us. It's a sad day for them, and it's also a problem for us. We can't do what we have to do, and we would call ceasefire. They would come over there, talk to the family members, calm them down, try to get us valuable info that we need. It was an amazing tool that the mayor and the chief at the time put into our city.
No, I commend the mayor, the chief, and you and your hard work there being involved with that program, because engaging all different walks of people and those that were involved in criminal activity. Hey, we need to reach out to them and help prevent like you call it, ceasefire.
Yeah.
We want to stop the violence, mostly the shooting violence too. And that's probably significant why I noticed I was reading a new article recently, I think it was the Free Press that wrote about it, how shootings were down, and they were comparing from the 80s to the 90s. And I'm sure the ceasefire program probably helped.
It had a lot to do with it.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it had a lot to do with it. I mean, we had this thing too, we had a call-in. We would find a local church and a local precinct, and we'd go and invite these guys to this call-in, and we, the team would feed them, and they would sit down with them. There'd be like 20, 25 people, and they would have the mayor come in, whatever chief of police at the time would come in, different people throughout Wayne County, and then everybody would say their piece and try to talk about their situations. And then what I really, really liked is they would bring in mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers who have lost a loved one in a gang shooting or just a shooting in general. And those people used to come up, speak, tell them their stories, and it was amazing, because you have these guys that are these street guys, and we're gang members, blah blah blah, and here they are in the middle of this ceremony crying. They're crying after they hear the speech of a mother and a daughter, a sister, whoever it was that came in there. It was amazing. I had a friend who worked at the 10th precinct, and his name was Sergeant Edward Brannick, and he was part of the ceasefire program. So it's an amazing story, because he came up with this idea, and it was like I was just amazed that he did this. There was a park in the precinct on Dexter and Waverly, and these gang members used to go up there, and they used to always have parties. So there was supposed to be a large gang party, and Sergeant Brannick reached out to some members in the community and tried to get these guys not to have this party. Well, the gang members were like, "We don't care, we're having this party. Do what you got to do." So Sergeant Brannick put together a police picnic at the same park.
I love it.
That these guys were up there.
I love it.
So all the police officers went up. We had a barbecue, a picnic right next to the gang members. If you guys are not gonna, if you're gonna have a party, we're gonna have a party. And then it was, together, I swear to you, man, within like 10 or 15 minutes, everybody was interacting.
I love it.
Everybody, they're on our side eating. We're talking to them. It was amazing.
So so you went from responsive, meaning you get the call shooting or violent acts or whatever, a homicide, and you just respond. Now it's not just responding. We're engaging. We're interacting. We're following up on the victims. We're following the victim's family. We're talking to these individuals, these groups. That's modern policing, right?
Yeah, policing changed. I mean, when we came up, it was more like go get them. Go get them.
And you share how to do it, like you said, the revolving door, right? How do we stop that revolving door?
Yeah, and it just changed. We became more, in touch with the neighbors and the community, and more interacting, more barbecues, more having conversations, trying to identify what we can do to help, other than hey, put your hands behind your back, you're going to jail.
And I think because you worked in the Detroit Police Department, which you have it allowed you to gain a lot of different experiences you might have not got in other departments.
I agree.
Because there you experience the African American community, the Latino community, Arab community, very diverse community, and you're dealing with different diverse situations that I don't think any other department, maybe the entire state, could probably give you that in just one shot. Because you literally your front seats to the greatest show in the city and earth in the state, because you're there, you're up front and personal, and you're dealing with robberies, burglaries, shootings, and now the engagement piece, which that's very valuable.
I mean, quality of life issues in Detroit were different. You know, it's strange now being a chief in Dearborn Heights that, you know, your complaints are trash day pickup, speeders.
Yeah.
You know, why aren't the police showing up in a minute and a half? Why are they taking 3 minutes and not a minute? You know, where in Detroit it was, I mean, you know, cars being stolen on a daily basis, 10 to 15. You know, homes being broken into, people at the gas station trying to pump gas, getting robbed. You know, domestic violence issues, the young juveniles carrying guns. You know, I mean, what do you? I don't know. In New York, it's probably you probably didn't. The vehicle pursuits probably didn't happen often because you know how New York is.
Oh yeah,
structured
because
in
certain
streets.
laws that preventive and policy, departmental policies that, and also you know New York is very congested.
Yeah.
But I seen a couple Detroit guys chase people. We had a couple calls.
So if I mean, if I told you at the top of your head, on a daily basis in Detroit, how many traffic stops do you think officers make where individuals flee from?
I don't know.
I mean,
in Detroit?
Yeah, in Detroit. If you had to take a guess.
I don't know.
If I told you, probably, I would say throughout the whole city, probably 15 a day.
Wow. Yeah, I know. I hear some of them, especially from our neighboring districts.
Yeah. It's about 15 a day.
Wow.
Yeah. When my guys were out there, and I would be out there in a UC capacity trying to assist, we would have probably on a shift, if we were out there being real proactive, looking, we would probably have 5 to 6 a day. Just as one precinct.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that wasn't happening when we first came on the police department. People weren't running from us in these vehicles like they run now. You know, and it's, you know, the officers, you know, on one hand, you tell the officers, go out here and be proactive. Police, you know, let people see you, get the bad guy. On the other hand, they're taking off. And then we're telling them, hey, you know, we don't want you involved in these pursuits because it's a liability for the city. You know, it's a safety issue for yourself and for a citizen who could be just on their way home from a grocery store or from work. You know, don't get involved in these pursuits. So, you know, that's the biggest dilemma that I think I'm facing in Dearborn Heights. You got these guys that want to work. They want to work. People's vehicles are being stolen, and they're identifying who they are and where they're at. But we're trying to figure out how we can engage in these pursuits without harming a citizen, and you know that could be just.
Yeah, I think now we just got to find ways just to police a little more smarter. I mean, that's the reason why I wanted the drones, and I advocated for it since I got here. Finally, just got the approval. It took me quite some time. Yeah. Because I had to really convince the public and also our elected officials on the importance of it. Because sometimes we use these drones to follow, pursue people, and also for other significance where we don't need to have immediate police response. But I had an incident when I first got there, and we had police pursuit that led to unfortunately a crash that led to people, two innocent victims died as a result. So I had to deal with that internally and come up with different policies. But even though the officers were doing the right thing, I mean, they were assaulted. It's the problem is a lot of times we like to blame the police, right? Yeah. Not say, hey, why did the police pursue this person? This individual was involved in some form of criminal activity or assaulted the police officers or, and then we got to focus on what the nature of the pursuit was. But this is the time that we live in, right? And it's challenging to be a police officer. It's challenging. Yeah. What do? Do you pursue? Do you not? Do you engage? Do you not engage? These are all open to debate. There's no right or wrong answer.
I agree.
And I agree. Having those discussions with your department, your officers, is important.
I agree. I mean, we just got to figure out better ways to put in, better things that we could put in place that can help these guys on these pursuits. Drones, helicopters. One thing that we did in Detroit a lot at my precinct alone is the officers we'd have officers in undercover vehicles. So as the vehicle was fleeing, we would notify the undercover officer. The undercover officer would try to tail them until we can get them secured at a gas station or in their driveway or something like that. It worked out really, really well for us, but not a lot of people were doing that. There was just one precinct that was doing that because we had a lot of experienced officers at our precinct that just felt that this is the best way to come at these guys when they flee from us. Helicopters work really well for us, helicopter, but the drone would be amazing. Not only just for the vehicle pursuits, but these armed suspects that the drone could go in first and kind of do a little bit of recon for the officers. There is an individual who's on on the porch, and he does have a shotgun, or he's in the backyard, just for your safety. This drone has identified these people. Yeah, drones are amazing.
And I just want to thank the Detroit Police Department because, we just had an MOU that we signed together. We share certain, technological databases and videos and stuff, and they helped us solve a lot of crimes.
Yes.
And just grateful for the chief there and all the, people that work under him and just working together collaboratively. Because at the end of the day, like Hamtramck, we're surrounded around Detroit, and we need Detroit's help in it. And it's amazing. The collaborative work that keeps us. And I always tell Hamtramck residents, Detroit is helping us keep Hamtramck safe. And whatever Hamtramck can do to keep Detroit safe, and a lot of times we had a couple of cases where they were looking for certain suspects, and we found them, and we worked together on them. So I love this collaborative effort.
Detroit has a lot of resources.
Yeah, they do.
Not just you need to tap into them; we all need to tap into them. At the end of the day, people don't like to hear this. Detroit passed us. Detroit passed all the suburban
They're our
cities.
big brother.
Yeah, big time.
Of course.
And they have a lot of stuff that these other suburban cities don't have. They just have this ego that they don't want to, hey, we're the suburban cities. We don't have to tap into Detroit, and Detroit has passed. We are definitely a little brother, and their databases, the way they operate on a day-to-day basis, they're amazing. They have a lot of stuff just with their green light, with all the cameras they have in the city, with their facial rec, with their different their databases, their mugshot machines, the way they identify their problem individuals in their city, their gang intel unit, their commercial auto theft. They're tapped into the feds. The feds are in their city. It's an amazing police department that all of us need to
and we share not only geographical boundaries, but we share also common perpetrators are committing crimes on multiple cities that we can all help out. And but tapping into the resources that Detroit has, it's important, very valuable. And there's a lot of units. One of my guys is joined the auto crime unit, and they work very effectively, auto theft, and that's something that we experience. And so now we're having an additional guy join that unit. So it's great. And Dearborn Heights is involved, Dearborn and some other departments. So it's great.
Yeah, they're it's an amazing big brother to have. That's how I look at it. And they are with Chief Bedison and his staff. They'll give you whatever. Chief Bedison will give you a shirt off his back. That's the type of people that he has surrounding him, and it's a good department to have that we can lean on. I mean, I'm sure in New York when you were there, it was always New York and whatever suburban cities
remind me of that song, Lean on Me. When you're not strong.
There you go. There you go.
Come in the department.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right.
But so after that, where'd you go? So what was the next?
So I did the ceasefire thing, and then it was kind of right after the New Year. I ran into the mayor in Dearborn Heights, and we had a conversation.
So you after you did narcotics.
I did narcotics. Then I did patrol, and then
how many years?
At narcotics, 6 years.
Total.
Total 29 years.
29 years.
Yeah.
In the Detroit Police Department.
Yeah, 29 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 29 years.
And I'm over here talking big with my 20 years.
Hey, we're all on the same boat, bro.
29 years, all right.
Yeah, and it was trust. I miss it. I miss just the work. I miss the people. But then, I mean, at some point you have to say to yourself, it's time to have someone else take care of you.
Yeah.
It's time to have someone else, take care of you.
What was your last assignment in Detroit?
My last assignment with Vice.
Oh, you was in Vice? Wow, I did Little Vice. Wow.
Yeah.
How was that?
I really didn't do it much. I was only there for a couple weeks.
All right.
So, but it was the Vice unit in DPD is one of my good friends now was in charge of it. His name is Sergeant Brown, and they have a lot on their plate, man. A lot on their plate with these gas station owners and a lot of these businesses that are selling vapes illegally. Some are selling marijuana.
I got you.
Yeah, our Vice
illegally.
is more. Our Vice is more structured around that, around the the after hour parties.
Because people, when they hear vice, they're thinking prostitution, right?
Yeah, yeah, we have a prostitution problem too, but I think our vice enforcement is a little small, so everybody, it's all hands on deck when it comes to the prostitution
I was reading
problem.
reports about, like, all these massage parlors and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I know there's a crackdown recently. I think last month or so they were talking about it.
The department really does good with the prostitution issues in Detroit. One thing I can tell you about our mayor, he'll drive down John R. If he drives down John R., he will call. I see a prostitute out here. Where's the police? And next thing you know, we're getting yelled at or we're out there. Oh, wow. But our mayor does not shy away from driving through the neighborhood that he's getting complaints about, Mayor Duggan. And
I'm scared for a moment when you say he's driving down John R.
Yeah,
I gotta cut this off, right?
I hope not.
And people don't understand. Like, when you do vice, you're protecting also the person, the prostitute, him or herself, because a lot of times we had incidents where, unfortunately, some prostitutes, were getting killed, getting robbed. They were become victims of other crimes. And we had a serial killer at one point in Suffolk County, outside New York City, that involved, prostitution. So, it's important to relate the information, because people think it's like a victimless crime, but they don't understand that there's also these pimps that, human traffic women. It's very complex, and it's not a victimless crime.
Yeah, we had a case in Detroit where one of our local streetwalkers was stabbed, and we fortunately had a green light camera over there, so that the person who did the stabbing also committed a crime. I think it was in Sterling Heights at a Target, where he walked up to a lady and tried to pull her into a car. Well, in our case, in the Detroit one, he stabbed this woman to death, and then he turns around, looks at the camera, and he basically does one of these to the camera, to our camera. Yeah. And he got on his bike, rode off. The crazy thing about that case, it was a female officer from Dearborn Heights who arrested him. She saw him on Telegraph. On a bike, saw him, identified him. It was amazing work by her. I believe she identified him through a BOL. And she just saw him, he fit the description, radioed it in, and ended up catching the guy.
Amazing.
In Dearborn Heights. And it was a case that was in Detroit, dealing with a prostitute that we talked about. So there's a lot of things that that you can get from being in a big city like that. A lot.
Wow, 29 years in Detroit, and now you retire and go to Dearborn Heights, or how did that happen?
I retired.
And you retired?
I retired and went to Dearborn Heights. I saw our current mayor, Mayor Bazzi, who's now the ambassador. And in Tunisia.
Congratulations to him.
And he's hopefully he should be out of here soon in the midsummer, taking that new assignment. And
we congratulate him. Yeah. And I know he was a Marine, U.S. Marine for over 20 years. Yeah. Right, career Marine. Yeah. So we thank him for his service. As a proud Arab American in the Marine Corps. Yeah. I heard about him and knew about him way back. My cousin, actually, Khalil Al-Muntasir and Abdul Basel, Abdul Samad, all of them. They all knew him because they were Marines. A lot of my cousins were recruited to the Marine Corps. And there was one guy that recruited us. I remember going to my father. I was like, I'm going to join the Marine like my cousin. My father said, you ain't going nowhere. You stay right here. Yeah. So he knew a lot of them, and they were friends for many years. But we congratulate him. Thank him for his service.
Yeah, he's a good man. He'll appreciate it. And I met up with him, and there was a conversation about me at the time taking a position as an emergency manager, because that position was at the time vacant because acting chief or interim chief Farhat, that was his position before he took the deputy chief role, and then eventually became the interim chief in Dearborn Heights.
Yeah, and I just want to throw it out there because I met Farhat and I congratulated him, right? Because I don't know politics, I'm not involved in, I hear things and I'm like, congratulations, and I just want to thank him for his service and thank as a Arab American in those roles, and these are new roles, really. Let's be honest, for us.
Yes,
was never happened in the past.
Yes, never happened.
So just to see another person that we're identify certain background, and it was nice to see him also former DEA guy. He was very pleasant, and then I realized why they call this guy Smiley. So
definitely a good name for him.
But, it's amazing to see all of you guys, like,
Yeah.
you know, just move up the ranks, and it's inspiring.
Yes. Oh man,
Really is.
it's
Inspiring.
it really opens up the doors for
Yeah,
everybody else.
yeah.
And these young Arab officers that are coming on
Yeah.
this job don't
You know,
realize.
a lot of them didn't want them to join. You know, I'm probably sure. I remember when I grew up,
I can tell you the
they were
stories.
telling me,
man.
they were like, "Oh, you a snitch, man?
Yeah.
You go and join the cops, or we don't trust you now." And
Yeah.
it was a tough time. I came on, you know,
Yeah.
during 9/11, during that time, but it was already set in my mind.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a cop. It was nothing was gonna
Yeah.
stop me.
Yeah. No, it was tough times.
And I could imagine you, 96, right?
Yeah.
So you was there during 9/11. You was already a seasoned officer. I could imagine what the community, how they received you.
Oh, at 9/11, it was
it was
real,
tough. It was challenging.
It was tough. I mean, can only imagine what was going on in New York.
Yeah.
But for us, you know, we had to guard the bridge for almost 2 weeks, the Ambassador Bridge.
Yeah.
They put us under the Ambassador Bridge, and we sat there and guarded it because no one knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
The whole country was shook
Yeah.
up, you know. So yeah, I got a lot of stories when I wanted to become a police officer.
Yeah.
You know, I put in an application. Here I am, a police officer in '96.
Wow.
You know, you know, in our community, you know, your mom, your dad, you know, your uncles, they're really involved. Not saying that they're not involved in other communities,
yes. Yeah.
but they're involved in our community, and
Yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
being an Arab American officer in the city of Detroit, you know, this is rough and we don't want to lose you, blah,
Get
blah,
scared.
come home.
Right.
But they don't understand, like, hey, you can't tell your mom, like, hey, Mom, I'm not accepted in Dearborn Heights yet. She's not going to understand that.
Yeah.
You know, in the 90s, they weren't ready for guys like us. I mean, let's keep it real.
Yeah.
You know, we were the double minority at the time,
Right.
coming in, and you know, people weren't ready to deal with Arab
Naturally
American
so.
officers.
It was just, you know,
Yeah, they just
with the new kids on the block.
Yes. So, you know, there's a certain city I applied for, and it was Madison Heights, you know, and I put in an application, and I remember going in, and the officer was like, right away, like, what do you want? What do you need? You know, I'm like, I'm here to drop off this application. Kind of looked at me, hesitated a little bit, and he's like, he wanted to say something, but he really didn't. Took my application. He said, I'll turn it in for you. Remember, I went around the corner, washed my hands, went in the restroom, washed my hands, came out, and I could hear them laughing and cracking jokes and basically shredding my application. You know, and I walked out. And I, you know, didn't say anything. You know, I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
So at that point, you know, spoke with my mom and you know my father at the time, and kind of was like, hey, you know, kind of like it where I am. I'm accepted. You know, there's people that look like me in this community. There's people that look like me that are in blues. You know, I think I'm better off here. You know, and as time evolved and people started getting used to people that look like me and you that came from our community, it started becoming easy for members like us to come on.
Yeah, and let me ask you, 96, Detroit Police Department, was it heavily African American?
No.
It was diverse?
No, it was diverse. Very
Wow.
diverse. Very. It's still diverse to this day.
Wow.
You know, it was a lot of white officers, a lot
Yeah.
of black, a lot of, you know,
So
Hispanics.
you felt welcome
Oh, yeah.
in Detroit. And that's something
Yeah.
that, you know, I commend the Detroit Police Departments. A lot of the urban police departments they give people like you, other people a chance
Yeah.
that maybe they didn't have that chance somewhere
Yeah.
else. So,
Yeah.
I just wanted to just
Yeah.
throw it out there.
Yeah. And then, you know, we came out of these police department, we started to grow.
That's why when
You know.
they say you're a Detroit, always a Detroit cop.
Yeah.
So that
Oh, man, it goes a long way.
yeah, I can see that. I can
There's,
see
you
that
know.
in your tone. I can see that in a lot of people I speak to
Yeah.
that started in Detroit. It's like,
Yeah. It's never going to go.
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's a place
You should be proud of it.
Yeah, I
You should
mean,
be
when
proud.
you go, I
Yeah.
mean, you go on vacations. What do you do for a living? You know, once you say Detroit or I'm a New York cop, Detroit cop, you get a different reaction.
yeah.
You know, you tell them I'm a Dearborn Heights police officer. Well, where's that at? Oh, it's in the suburbs of Detroit. You know, it's a little different. You know, not saying that Dearborn Heights is
No,
bad,
it's a great
but,
department.
but just coming from
Yeah.
Detroit, it's
Naturally so. I mean,
yeah,
it's a bigger,
people know it. You know,
Yeah.
for the right reasons.
But that's really
You
good
know,
that they gave you
yeah.
a shot and
Yeah.
to give a young Arab American kid in Dearborn Heights a
Yeah.
shot to be a cop.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there was a moment, you know, a few years ago where you know Dearborn has their annual homecoming
Yeah.
event, which you
Oh,
know
wow.
this year we're gonna
Just
attend
start
it.
that.
We're
Yeah,
gonna-
all right.
Yeah, we're gonna go there. Me and you.
I
have
like
a good
that
time.
homecoming event.
Yeah, and and I was just sitting. I had a moment. I was sitting on a bench and I was just watching, people watching, and I saw all these Arab American police officers, pass me up. All these Arab young officers that were in Dearborn. It just felt like special. Here's an opportunity. Look at these kids. If they only knew that this old man sitting on this bench was one of the original ones to open the door for them, I wonder how they would feel. And it's just, and I give a lot of cred to Issa Shaheen, for what he's done for that city and the Arab officers that he's recruited, brought in there. He stole a lot of good Arab officers from Detroit and brought them into Dearborn. And then after that, it started. The Arab officers started coming. We have a handful of Arab officers in our city that the past administration brought in that did a wonderful job with them. We have, Officer Hujayz, Officer Fayyad. There's some good police officers that have come into Dearborn Heights that I haven't had an opportunity to hire any of them yet because I'm just getting going. But there's about 8 or 9 police officers in Dearborn Heights that have a lot of talent. We have a couple sergeants, Sergeant Mazloum and Sergeant Bazzi, Sergeant Zaren, 3 of them that are from the community that that are hopefully they rank up. Hopefully they take the time and take the test and they get ranked, and then we can continue this. It shouldn't stop at someone like you. It shouldn't stop at someone like Farhat. It shouldn't stop at me. It shouldn't stop at Samir Jafer and Mike Jafer. It needs to continue. And it's our job to not only make sure that everybody is in a position for a promotion, but it's really important for our community to see someone like them.
It's amazing. I mean, I remember way back when I came here, I gave, I was awarded, it was an organization that invited me here, and I was giving diversity training talks to some departments and some organizations. I went to some mosques. One particularly Islamic Center of America in Dearborn. I gave a lecture there about interfaith, the importance of interreligious activities and bringing the community together. At that time, it was only Ronald Haddad. He was the only Arab American that I knew. He was, he's an amazing guy. And he was also former Detroit, right?
He was my commander. I mean, he was someone I looked up to. And listen, I apologize. I totally overlooked him. I forgot.
No, I'm just trying to bring back because he was someone really looked up to because, to be... And he spoke very eloquently, and he had a great background, and a lot of experience.
He's an amazing man.
And he welcomed me when I came to Dearborn. He welcomed me there, and we were talking offline, and even behind the scenes, he'll give me some advice. And amazing person. Then you had Mike Jeff, right? He became the undersheriff, and I met him in the FBI Academy when I was out there, and then Issa Shaheen, right? He became I think when Hamoud became mayor, he appointed Issa Shaheen. And I met Issa Shaheen, and the guy's a phenomenal guy, got a lot of experience. And even though after the Hash Cash interview, he's probably a little upset, but it's okay, brother.
He's all right. He knows
we love Issa, we love Issa Shaheen, we love Dearborn. And I think it goes back to the ceasefire, right? Talking to people that maybe not necessarily agree with us, but all these Arab American chiefs, I mean, congratulate them, these leaders, and bringing in more individuals and say, hey, it doesn't matter if you're Chinese American, Italian, or you're Latino or Mexican American. If you want to be a police officer, this department will welcome you. And that's the message that we want to hear across the board, but across the United States, all departments, And it's good to see our communities changing because, like I said, it was very suspect for Arab Americans to want to be even involved in law enforcement. And I think it serves our country great that we can have Arab Americans that have the language background, cultural background, to be in these institutions, that'll make it more effective. Keep our community safe, but also ultimately keep our nation safe.
Ronald, I think if you were going to put a Godfather up there, it would be Haddad. Haddad would be the Godfather, and then after that, you would have to put Mike Jafer and Issa Shaheen. Everybody else, like myself, we're coming for the seat. And that's how you got to look at it. Those are the guys that opened up the door.
So I like how you said that because now it's honoring those that came before us. And I know you told me something about you had a family member that was on the job. Can you tell us a little about him?
It was my cousin Ali Adib Haider. Ali Adib
Haider. Oh, wow, Haider.
1970.
Wow.
He was in the Air Force, and then he ended up he was a Detroit police officer in the 70s. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, you heard it, man.
Yeah.
In the 70s.
In the 70s.
Wow.
He was before us all.
Yeah.
He was before us all. A lot of people don't know that because, his one of his sons is a EMS member of the Detroit EMS department.
Wow.
Yeah, in the fire department in Detroit.
What's his son's name?
His name is Anwar.
Oh, Anwar.
Anwar Haidar.
Shout out to Anwar, your father. We honor you, especially during this month, Arab American History Month. Wow.
And his brother is one of his other brothers is Mikey. His name is he's got a mechanic shop in Dearborn on Warren, Wyoming. Alex's, and he's a well-known member in the community. People love this guy.
No, I love these stories, man.
Yeah.
These need to be highlighted.
Yeah. He's got another older son named Jeffrey. But these like he was he actually pinned my badge.
Wow.
When I got when I came on the police department at my ceremony, he put my badge on.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was the one, But we just, there's people in our community that are all over. Just we were highlighting.
So Haidar didn't start in '96. This goes back to the '70s.
Yeah, it goes back to the '70s. It also goes back to my cousin Mark.
Wow.
Mark Haidar. He's a defense attorney.
Wow.
He was an assistant prosecutor at the prosecutor's office in the '80s. He was one of the first out of prosecutors.
Public service,
first out of prosecutors. Now he's a big defense attorney. Like Mark Haidar in our community, without him, we would have been in a lot of trouble. You look around right now, we have lawyers fighting for us. We all over. But at the time, there was one guy. It was Mark.
Wow.
Mark Haidar. So it just we had a lot of people in our community that did really well for all of us. But you want to kind of highlight these people so people know.
Yeah, no, it's important. It's important to understand our history.
Yeah.
So we can understand our current status.
Yeah.
And move forward.
Yeah.
But
we have this thing in Dearborn Heights that Officer Fayette and who Jays are involved in, where we get together as officers in the city and over coffee, and we have a roundtable discussion, and we talk about the things that we can improve on and things we need to do better. What's upcoming events that are coming to the city that we need to be involved in. Doesn't matter. Like we have Easter around the corner, and we're gonna have a egg hunt for them, and how we're gonna be involved and what we're gonna do and things like that. And these guys are mainly our SROs, our school resource officers, so they're engaged in the community with the teachers, with the schools, and with the parents. So it's policing's changed, man. It's changed, and sometimes, I think the Detroit guys are probably looking right now and saying, man, Haydar's changed, he's a different guy, because, I'm brought up in the 90s. It's go get him.
But we change with time. And I think also we develop our own selves, right?
Yeah.
Through experiences.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you've seen things. Look, the city changed.
Yeah.
The country's changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Change with time. And that's the beautiful thing about us as human beings, that we're able to adapt and change.
I didn't read, I don't remember the title of this book, but it was a book that was written when Obama came into office. I think it might be called The 21st Century Policing. And it's a good read. If you ever read it, he put a panel of people throughout the country. Yeah, I remember. And it was he was trying to reform policing.
All right.
And if you read that book, you're going to say to yourself, I know why we're at now. Because the book is really.
That was a response after a lot of the unfortunate, incidents that occurred throughout the country.
Yes. Yeah. About different things, interacting with the community, how a traffic stop that goes wrong with a minority member in the community could affect him for the rest of his life. They have real life stories about like what
a lot of it wasn't not just negative, it was positive. It was talked about some of the great stories and heroism.
Yes.
Some of the law enforcement officers.
Yeah, it's a good read. And I urge everybody in law enforcement to read this book because you'll understand why we are where we are now with body-worn cameras, with everything. All the equipment that we have now that we didn't have back in the early 2000s and in the early 90s.
Wow. We talked a lot about law enforcement. I didn't even get to know a little about your, usually I start like, hey, where'd you grow up and all that, and I think we just went straight to law enforcement in your career. But just tell us a little before we, did you grow up? You grew up in Dearborn. You were born here.
So I grew up in Dearborn Heights.
And you were born?
I was born in Lebanon. I came here when I was 9 months old.
So you came here when you were 9 months old.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
So
I love the Lebanese, history of Dearborn Heights, but also the contributions that Lebanese Americans made. I mean, and everyone benefit, even the Yemeni Americans. Where would we be at without Lebanese and Iraqi and even our African American community, the relationship that you had in other communities as well. The Lebanese really came a long way. Every time I delve into this, I talk to them in Dearborn. It makes me proud to know that all the contributions that the Lebanese people really made.
Yes, yeah. It was. So I have a unique background. So I was born and raised in South Dearborn Heights, where it's an all-white community. So everybody around me was white.
Cool, yeah.
Was totally white. They all went to private schools. They all were pretty wealthy. They had money. It's
the affluent section, I guess you would say, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I went to a school which was probably 70% black, 30% white.
Okay.
Robichaud High School.
Yeah.
And I interacted with a lot of the black community, minority community, because of being involved in sports. We were always involved in sports. Yeah. So had a lot of African American women that I spent time in their home and picking up, dropping off for practice and stuff like that. So I understood that culture just from being in the schools and being around them and being active and playing sports with them. But then when I went home, I was around a white community. So all the people that lived across the street from me, next door, in my neighborhood were all white. So, I had to learn how to interact with them.
Yeah, that's good.
Skateboarding, baseball, stuff of the stuff that they were into.
That's good.
But then when I walked in my home, we were straight, spoke Lebanese.
Yeah. So you're exposed to diverse people, but also diverse experiences.
Spoke Lebanese. We practiced the Muslim religion.
Yeah.
My mom would purposely on weekends take us into Dearborn and would put us around, a lot of the Arab people from the community because she wanted us to pick up that side, which we did. It was crazy. We lived in Dearborn Heights, but all our friends were in Dearborn. Yeah. Then we had my cousins, Anwar and Jay, and both were Haidaras, and they were always at our home. My other cousin Joe, we always spent time together. It was all of us. So I always kind of questioned it, and as I got older, I asked my dad. I go, why? What was the reason for being in this area? Why did you? He never really gave me a legitimate answer. But then he said, the one thing I like about how you were brought up is you're diverse. You're in a diverse community. You can learn how to adapt because you want to make it in this country. You have to learn how to adapt to the white
Not just
community.
stay amongst your own, but be exposed to other people.
Yeah. The white community.
Yes.
The African American community, and then
appreciate these different communities.
And you have to appreciate your own, which and then they gave us that background too. So it was very, very diverse growing up. And but now obviously I've gotten older and I've done better for myself, and I live in the community. My kids didn't get what I have, and they're not going to get what my wife has. They're in Dearborn, so it's very 100% pro-Arab. Where we in the neighborhoods that we live in now and the schools we go to, so they're not going to get that. But we try to push it as much as we can to them so they understand what it's like to be around the African American community, the white community, and we try to educate them because at some point they're going to have to go on their own and be in this environment, and then
be exposed to different cultures and people and really just in the end of the day embrace each other. So I ended up played football at Robichaud. We won a state championship. We're one of the greatest football players in the state of Michigan, Tyrone Wheatley. He's went to U of M Michigan, ended up playing for the Giants, and he ended up playing for the Raiders. And he's and he's a coach at Wayne State now. Interesting. Wow.
So we had some good times, and then I mean, obviously when you get older and you start to.
You're a Detroit Lions fan, I would assume.
Yeah, come on, man, don't tell me. Who is it? The Jets or the Giants? Who is it, man?
I can't say now. Yeah, have some problems there.
I know.
But I'm becoming a Detroit Lions fan. I ain't gonna lie, because this last season I was impressed by the Detroit Lions.
Oh, we've suffered a lot.
I was impressed by the energy, the energy of the coach, amazing coach, the players, and just the crowd, man. And it's funny, man. I went to the stadium a few times, and I see the people with the shirts. And they all at it, man. I love it. I wish them the best next.
Yeah, we gotta
season around,
you gotta call the Chief Bedison, put him on speed dial. I'm sure he's got a booth somewhere up there. You know what I mean? You got to attend the game.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
but I love that. You know, especially here in Michigan, you guys are hardcore football fans.
Yeah, we love the Lions, man.
Yeah.
We suffered a lot in the last couple of years. The Lions have been doing really, really well, and it's something that growing up we just didn't have. I mean, you guys had the Giants. I mean, I wouldn't say the Jets much, but the Jets were okay. Yeah. But you guys had some good teams in New York. I mean,
one of the former the coaches was a guy from Michigan. Was it Saleh?
Yes.
Jets, yes. It was
his father lives 2 doors down from me.
Look at that. Wow.
Yeah. His father, I know his older brother.
And even him, man, probably one of the first Arab Americans to have that, right? Serving that role as a coach.
Yeah, he played at Fortson.
And then for a while, he did.
Yeah, he played at Fortson, yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, he was a good athlete. Wow. Really good athlete.
I was very proud to know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hope to see, hopefully, more people in the NFL, maybe from that community. Because I see some of the kids, they got some talent.
Yes.
I didn't grow up with football. I watched it a lot. My friends played it. The guys that lived up in Long Island. I mean, I lived in New York City, Brooklyn. We had concrete. We couldn't play. We didn't have the fields.
Yeah.
Play basketball, monkey bars and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure your community loves soccer.
Yeah, they love soccer. Hamtramck, they're big soccer fanatics. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really weird in Dearborn Heights. It's like
football,
football, but then you do have a lot of soccer people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably the Yemeni community that's moving in. They love the soccer.
Yeah. So there's a facility in Dearborn Heights called Elite Sports.
Wow.
And it's like, you got the younger generation who are like kind of like us who are born and raised here that will rent out the facility and go play flag football.
Wow. Indoor?
Yeah, we'll go in there and play football, and then usually there's a group of people after us wanting to play soccer. So it's crazy. You go from football, and an hour, 2 hours later, it's soccer, and soccer's really big.
Still football, American football. And,
yeah, but I mean, it's just so I'm involved in this chat with these younger guys, some really good men in our community. A kid named Ahmed Harajli. He's a former professional rugby player. Yeah, and there's these guys. At a young age, they put this football group together. It was neighborhood kids, and it's just evolved. It's become something really big. So every Sunday we get together and we play football. And these kids that come play football, there's a kid named Hassan Beydoun, played at Eastern Michigan, was an amazing football player. Ish Bazzi, Cal Bazzi. Kids are very good kids in our community. Mustafa Hawili is a lawyer in our community.
Yeah.
Hassan Kadu is he owns I think it's Cousin's Lobster.
Wow.
It's
awesome.
So these kids every Sunday they get together. I call them kids because I'm 50. These kids are in there, and they're just hitting mid 25. Yeah. But very religious kids, amazing men. They do anything for the community. They get together. Yeah. And we always have conversations of how we can better the community.
That's awesome.
And it's when I see like I'm part of this chat, and they're much younger than me. But it's just, I'm proud because these are the next up and coming. And they're amazing religious kids. They talk about religion all the time. Very good group of people. Amazing. So, I mean, the parents in our community, Hamtramck, Dearborn Heights, they're doing really good. They're doing really good. And they need to continue.
Yeah. Good to hear that. I know because it's very challenging being a youth, any youth throughout the United States today because there's a lot of trials and tribulations they have to go through, whether it be, drugs, right? Other issue, mental health. So, having these alternatives for them, sports, family, community, being involved and engaged. Now the police department, being involved, that goes a long way.
Yes. I mean, law enforcement took a step back with George Floyd. The whole George Floyd incident put us back a little bit. But we're doing well. Yeah. We're fixing it. We're coming back from it. It is once we get that mindset out, from these kids is that, hey, we're normal. We're no different from you guys. We're just trying to make sure everybody's doing the right thing. Make sure they're at home. They're able to put their head on their pillow and knowing that we're safeguarding their lives. At
the end of the day, we can't paint everyone with the same brush, right? If someone within the Arab Muslim community does something wrong, we don't paint the whole community. And same thing with other communities. Same thing with our profession. Like, one bad apple doesn't mean the whole basket is bad. We address that apple. Yeah. And we deal with it. Yeah. But we make sure it doesn't spread the virus. But end of the day, the profession is an honorable. I couldn't think of any kind of other job. I love this job.
I love it. Yeah, sometimes they say, man, I bet you my blood is blue under there. You know what I mean? It's the best thing.
I appreciate you coming
I appreciate
out here,
you, man. Thank you, man.
I love the talk. I could talk to you for a long time.
We could talk forever. We will.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a lot because even though we come from two different worlds. You're from New York, and and how you were brought up, and I'm from Dearborn Heights, and to become a Detroit cop. But we have a lot in common. We both went through the big city. I think that's alhamdulillah. That's put us in a position we're in now. And the only thing we could do is continue to succeed at where we're at. Do a good job at what we do, and in the near future, it doesn't matter who takes our seat. If it's a white guy, a Caucasian, an African American, doesn't matter. We open the door for our young ones that look like us, that come from our community, to say, hey, I could be there one day. It's the same way. It's the same way that I just told you when I saw the white officer that came into my school. And how I said I want to be like him. Inspired. You don't know what kid we're going to run into, and then we're going to make a one thing Chief Craig used to always say to us is every day's an interview.
Wow.
Every day's an interview. Every time he had a conversation with you, it was an interview. And every day that you're out here and someone's talking to you, it's an interview. And I say that every single time a kid walks up to us, he might not ask us the right questions, but he's looking at us like, I want to be there. So.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that because Martin Luther King was famously known saying he spoke to a group of high school students and he told them it's important that you leave a blueprint. That blueprint in life is, the inspiration that you give out, those encouraging words. It's living a life of a legacy that's rewarding. It's not just getting a job and a paycheck, but leaving a blueprint. Like, people could know Haydar was there. Why he was there, he knows through the hearts and minds, to talking to people that said all those great things and all those contributions you made. That there's no price tag to that. So
there isn't. You won't be forgotten. It's being in this position is like being in the Hall of Fame. You're there. I don't know how Hamtramck's set up, but in Dearborn Heights, you walk into the lobby, and it goes from the '60s all the way to the current chief. And once my picture's up there, it's up there. You can't take it down. It's there.
Leaving a legacy in history.
Yeah. So every time, someone comes in to do a police report, anytime someone comes in to visit the police department, it's going to be there 20, 30, 40 years from now. There's pictures of guys there that were there in the mid 70s, and, you got to take a moment and reflect on that and say, wow, that, you are the chief of Hamtramck. And regardless of how long you last, they're still going to remember you as the chief of Hamtramck. So, and you got to thank the people that open the doors for us too, man.
Yes, of course.
People that open doors, and for people that trusted in us to come and manage your city.
And those doors really date way back, and some of those doors was that young Arab man that was Haydar in the '70s that probably had no one around. It starts with that little spark. And just leads to you and to someone else, and you don't know who you inspired somewhere else, some other city, some other town. And it doesn't have to be someone that looks like us from the same background.
Right.
Could be some African American kid in some area somewhere, maybe in North Carolina, that said, hey, wow, I want to be just like that guy. Just like this white male came in, speaking to an Arab young boy, and inspired him. So, I mean, it's amazing. And I just thank you for your service. 29 years in Detroit. That's a lot of years. That's a lot of time. We thank you for that.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. I mean, as someone that lives now in this area, but as someone that's proud of this profession, we thank you and congratulate you on being the chief of police.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Dearborn Heights.
Yeah, we will be seeing each other more often, inshallah.
Love it, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.